Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to the talk today. And today, we'll be talking about Degen Score, on-chain credentials, and how we think some of the use cases will evolve for them as our industry kind of develops. So what is Degen Score? So Degen Score, at its core, is all about identifying good quality on-chain users and allowing them to highlight their abilities and be rewarded for their skills on-chain. We work by kind of looking at a user's on-chain activity, the types of things they've done in Ethereum right now, and then give them points based off kind of the variety of things they've interacted with and the depth of interaction they've done for a protocol or an NFT project or in governance, and then reward them with points. So the higher the points, the better quality user. And we started during DeFi summer, and we're really popular around when we released, because I think it was the first time that, at least for me as a user, felt like I could have my on-chain story being told in a way that I could understand. And so it's been really fun building this product in this space for the last 2 years. Let's get into kind of what we've learned and what on-chain reputation is. So what is on-chain reputation? Well, it's pretty simple. It's the things you do on-chain. So whether you're minting a new NFT project that just came out, or whether you are providing liquidity to a protocol, or whether you are voting or proposing governance, all of these things we do on-chain every week or every day contribute to your reputation. And obviously, reputation is a pretty big topic. And so the types of users that you are, sometimes it's portable across different communities, but in other times, it's just organized in that one group. So for example, if you're an NFT project looking to build out your allow list, you're probably going to look at users who have a good reputation in NFTs, maybe have good taste, and probably not be as interested for like active Aave governance participants, because these are just two different types of users. So right now, when we look at on-chain reputation and how people can kind of highlight who they are on-chain, I think, and we think at Degen Score, it's really limited. So you're only able to maybe buy a cool NFT that you think is funny or shows an aspect of your personality that you want to highlight, and put that as your Twitter or Telegram picture. Or you can just straight up put your DappCon profile link in your Twitter bio to try and highlight that you actually kind of maybe know what you're talking about or have experience on-chain, which can help you get access to certain things. These are not very privacy-preserving methods, and they're also very limited in terms of what they actually show. It really doesn't feel like I can get to know the entire user story and all the things that they want to highlight by just looking at these two elements. So we saw this and felt like there has to be something more and a better way to kind of highlight who you are as a user. One of the things that I'm still so amazed at is just how hard it is to know if someone is a good quality user or not. So if you look, I just took a screenshot of Etherscan for this example, but if I had to figure out, without Degen Score, who is a good quality user and the types of things they're interacting with, I'd have to go through each transaction, look at the tokens they hold, see which protocols they're interacting with, maybe see what NFTs they're holding, to get a sense if they're kind of quality or not. And I would have to already have a lot of skills and also knowledge about the space to make that kind of assessment. So this is really challenging just on an individual level to find who's good. It's challenging for the user who actually owns this, because they can't easily highlight who they are. And it's also really hard for teams to do like user acquisition or to find other potential users that they could be working with for their new project. So there's a huge amount of limitation right now with understanding how good a user actually is. And so we decided to launch something called the Beacon. So the Beacon is an on-chain credential that allows users to kind of highlight their abilities on-chain, share them with their friends and communities, and also allow them to be rewarded for the types of abilities and skills that they have from other projects that want to probably interacting with them. And so some of the key characteristics of the Beacon is that it's soul-bound, so a user can't trade it on a market. It's linked to them. It holds something called traits, which are kind of aspects of the user's on-chain reputation, packaged in a fun and consumable way. One of the things with the beacon and with Degen Score in general is we always want to make sure the reputation is easy to be understood, so human readable, and also fun to share. Because I think that's just really important. It's fun to flex and highlight just who you are on chain in a cool way. And with the beacon, you can now, if you want, optionally, connect multiple addresses to get kind of your full picture of who you are on chain, and then mint the soulbound token to like a public-facing address while hiding your bundle from the public. So this is a privacy-preserving way to highlight who you are on chain and the full picture if you choose to do so. You can also just mint to a single address if you like. So something we actually just launched today, this morning, is something called Traits, which we're really excited about. So before we just had the Degen Score, and that was kind of the main way people knew us and understood the product. Now we're going to have traits, which are basically slivers or sections of your on-chain reputation that all live inside of your beacon and can be explored by other users or yourself or by projects. So they live on-chain and they're queryable on-chain. They're built to flex, so they're supposed to be fun and cool things to highlight and share. They cover a range of topics. They're going to cover governance, NFTs, different aspects of DeFi. We really want traits to be useful for a range of different users in crypto, depending on what kind of they're interested in. And when you add all of the traits together, you get the user's Degen Score. So they all contribute to the user's overall score, which is the Degen Score, which is the easiest way to kind of assess how good quality a user is. So this is the first trait that we released. It's called the activity trait, and it looks at a user across 4 different variables. So the frequency of transactions that they're doing over the last 90 days, the variety of transactions, so how many smart contracts they're interacting with, how much GUI and how quickly they're doing those transactions, and also how much gas they've spent, so how much ETH they've actually spent in their beacon bundle or their address. So I guess the core things to know here is it's relative to everyone else in Ethereum, and all these points that you get with your activity trait contribute to having a high Degen Score. So basically, the more active you are, the higher your Degen Score, the better your life will be on chain. So I think as technologists and just building a company, you always kind of think about, okay, we can build this cool product, but how is it useful? Like, what are the actual core use cases for on-chain credentials or the beacon that are really important and validate what we're doing? And so this is what we spent a lot of the time for the last 8 months really exploring. And I want to go through some of the case studies that kind of exist today, but I think also will be really important in the future as our space matures. So hiring an applicant, I think, is a great use case for an on-chain credential. Right now, if you're a team and you're looking to make a hire, you want to, and you're a crypto team, of course, you want to kind of make sure that that applicant has good quality on-chain skills. But it's really hard to do that without, like I said before, like looking at their address and looking at Etherscan and what applicant's going to want to share their, all their addresses with a company. That's just never going to happen. And so on-chain credentials can kind of step in and allow applicants to share their on-chain abilities in a privacy-preserving way to prove that they are really good on-chain and get access to that dream job or that cool opportunity that they wanted to have, which maybe wasn't open to them before. So practically, like we've seen people use their Degen Score to get hired at VC firms, trading firms, and with teams because people understand that having a really high Degen Score means that that applicant's pretty special and can really contribute, which I think has been a really fun way to kind of see how some of the utility has been created for what we've built. And we kind of launched this dream team or this kind of job board where we worked with different companies that cared about on-chain reputation, and they used the beacon to kind of prove that applicants knew what they were talking about on-chain so they could be kind of fast-tracked in the process and be looked at. So that's one application that I definitely think will continue in the future, is hiring. User acquisition is kind of what I spent a lot of time on for the last kind of year. So we worked with 50 teams, over 50 teams, to really bring them the best quality users around in Ethereum. Because we have the ability at Degen Score to segment users into categories, we saw this opportunity to work with teams to bring them like the top 10% of DeFi users. And teams have a really tough time doing user acquisition right now in crypto, because there's not really a structured way to do it. It's very manual. Either you're messaging users on DappBank, which still doesn't work very well, or you're just trying to do an airdrop or talking on Twitter. We thought there could be a better way to kind of connect the teams and the users, because they both needed something from one another. And so we launched the cafe. Users who are beacon holders have been able to get access to airdrops or new products or NFT allow lists because of their on-chain reputation and because they're sought after users. And then teams have been able to get liquidity for their protocol, get a new user base from day one of their launch, and get awesome feedback for their product really quickly. And this has been a really cool marketplace to kind of manage, and we're still really excited about working with teams to offer great opportunities to beacon holders. So that's been really awesome. So another kind of topic which I think is going to be really popular, hopefully in the next year, but certainly in the next few years, is messaging. So I think crypto messaging makes sense only if you're kind of looking at what's happening on-chain. And you're using this data that exists on-chain to create interesting spaces. The example that we have is that when we kind of launched DegenScore, we saw that we could see the best quality users in Ethereum at the time. And so we allowed them to join a Telegram group with the top 250 users that we had. And this is a very weird place. There's some really popular crypto Twitter people there. There's some anons who are really large players on chain, all interacting together when large events happen in the space or just exploring new things happening in crypto. And this has been a really interesting example of how this group wouldn't really exist without a credential or on-chain kind of data bringing them together and allowing them to connect. So I'd love to see more examples of this happening, and I definitely think it will as more messaging platforms get built and the space kind of matures a bit. And the last use case I'm going to talk about is anti-Sybil. So when an ecosystem has to kind of decentralize or reward users, currently I think they have a lot of problems doing that in a really efficient way. And because of on-chain credentials, they can be composable and work together to kind of create an interesting barrier or gate for users to make sure that the right users are being rewarded when a protocol or ecosystem is decentralizing or giving out rewards. So the example that I kind of wrote down, which is just like Gitcoin Passport added with a beacon, added with maybe something else, would create like a really interesting kind of score or gate for users to have to go through to get access to rewards. And it's a very crypto-native way of dealing with Sybil. I don't think there's going to be one score or one way that perfectly deals with the Sybil problem, but I definitely think on-chain credentials can make this space more functional and efficient. So what's next at DegenScore? Well, we're obsessed about the on-chain reputation space, and we're going to continue to develop products in this area. We launched one trait today, the activity trait, and we're excited to kind of continue to build more traits that highlight different aspects of the user's reputation to either solve problems for the user or allow teams to approach and attract these types of users in a more structured and efficient way. We're really also thinking a lot about kind of the applications or the use cases for on-chain credentials. So while we're building a credential, we're also kind of exploring how it can be used. And we talked about that a little bit in some of the use cases that I mentioned. There's even more that I think can be discussed and explored, so that's what we'll be spending our time on as well. And we're also really excited to work with other great teams to leverage on-chain credentials, whether it's ours or just the space in general. We're excited to kind of partner with cool protocols or cool teams building interesting stuff and collaborate to build stuff together. So if you want to leverage DegenScore and work together, there's kind of two main ways to do that right now. So you can work with us in the cafe if you have a project or that you want to bring on-chain users to. We have a lot of good quality users. The user base right now controls over $350 million of assets. And so this is a really interesting base to work with to bring into your project when you want to launch or just release a new product feature. And we can also integrate with products. So there's so many different examples of why an integration might make sense. Could be like a lending borrowing protocol that's more peer-to-peer. Could be a social profile. There's so many different examples that it could be interesting to kind of leverage on-chain credentials to offer a better user experience to your users or just a completely new product experience. So if you're exploring that type of space as well, we'd love to talk with you to see how we can work together. So that's the talk. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We're really excited at DegenScore about learning more about on-chain credentials, their use cases, and continuing to make it easy for on-chain natives to be highlighted, share their reputation, and be rewarded for who they are. Thanks so much for listening, and good luck with the rest of DappCon.
Do we have any questions? If not, I would ask a little bit more about this new product. I mean, when you go there to build your bundle, I mean, do you need to somehow prove that you own the account by signing a message and say, if it's a smart contract wallet like a safe, how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I think right now you do have to sign that you own an address. And I believe that we integrate with MetaMask, Wallet Connect, things like that to prove that you can add it to your bundle. So otherwise, you could just add random addresses to your bundle, and it wouldn't really be your on-chain reputation.
Right. So how do you support like a smart contract wallet and proving that to add one of those to the bundle? Is it
I think
currently
actually
supported?
we do not support safes right now.
Okay.
But that's something for I'll take to the guys at home and try and get it to go.
Good to know. Do we have any other questions? If not, we've got one right here.
Thanks for the presentation. It was really interesting. I was just wondering maybe if you could share a bit more about the cafe and projects that are currently leveraging that to acquire new users.
Yeah, so I can talk about some of maybe the examples that we've had this year might be the most interesting. So we had, Gearbox. I don't know if you've heard about them. They're kind of an on-chain leverage product, and they really needed good quality on-chain users in, just kind of 100 really good quality on-chain users to try out their V2. And so they worked with DegenScore to kind of identify these users. We set, beacon ownership plus like a DegenScore of over 1,000 in order to access that product. And then 100 really good quality users were able to experience that product, and it was amazing for Gearbox to be able to onboard those users. Another example was a team in a similar vein that opened up their kind of liquidity pools at the start of their kind of launch, and over like $1 million of TVL went from our community into that project to kind of give them a great start on day one. Right now, it's free for teams to work with the cafe because we really just want to bring value to beacon holders. And so generally, it's things like an early access to a product, maybe an NFT allow list. There's just a range of different kind of opportunities that you can do in the cafe.
One more over here.
Thanks, Adam, for the talk. I was curious to find out how a prospective Degen user might find out about DegenScore. Like, do they just come across it when they're interacting with protocols and they see DegenScore, like in the cafe, or do you guys do active marketing to kind of spread the news?
Yeah, so how do users kind of find out about DegenScore? I think that's a good point. I think like maybe they see, there could be a few ways. So one I think on Twitter is kind of I think our main acquisition channel where people like learn about us, see what we're doing. I think if we've worked with a lot of teams to kind of use DegenScore as a bit of a gate for their product. And I think if you're part of that community, then you're starting to check out DegenScore and see, okay, what is this thing? How can I use it? So I think a lot of our partnerships helped us get the word out. But it's kind of this ongoing thing we're doing, communicating what you're doing in new circles to try and bring more users in. But we don't run any sort of structured ads or any sort of kind of campaigns to do a lot of user acquisition in that way. What we really kind of double down on and think about every day is how we can bring value to beacon holders and create new kind of product experiences for them, because we think that will then incentivize engagement and a reason to own the beacon and a good experience.
Looks like there's another question over here.
Maybe you've already mentioned it in the presentation, but I was wondering which chains are currently supported by DGen-Score.
Yeah, so right now we only support Ethereum. We'd love to go to layer 2s and more places. Part of the question was around infrastructure. We needed some infrastructure kind of developments to happen in the space before we could really go to places like Optimism or Arbitrum. But I think also it's just a question of really trying to find product market fit in a really scalable way with like our core user base. During this type of market cycle, we even had a lot of demand to go into other places. And I think when we ask ourselves, like, when will we go multi-chain, it's when we start to really feel like there's new products being deployed in different chains that are cooler or better than what's happening in Ethereum. But eventually we would like to get there because, as we all know, during like a busy time, Ethereum can be not the most successful place, and L2s will play a big part in kind of the next phase of our industry, I think.
All right. So let's thank the speaker again.
Thanks, guys.